Um, I'm wondering, is there, what I haven't heard, is there some sort of counter narrative about this Confederate flag that's, that actually separates it from the history of racism and slavery in a way that is uh, convincing? Or is this just a case where you have people who really feel that it would have been better if the South had won the Civil War, just holding on to their relics?
I think that's a great question. And I had mentioned earlier that I had a conversation with somebody recently and they were trying to talk about the South. And I think it was a good analogy as an honor culture.
Yeah.
And he was lamenting, this was a media guy, and he was lamenting that you can't talk about the South in any sort of a positive way without mentioning the racism and the history of slavery and all that. And his point was there's a heck of a lot of good that gets thrown under the table because you can't, you just, in this society you have to mention the bad things at the same time. In my mind, there's the best argument in the world for getting rid of the Confederate flag because it's just a reminder, maybe outside the South would be a good way to put it, of stuff that maybe the South would love it to let people know that they've moved past. I'm assuming they have. I'm going with that. I do think that I hear from people that talk about heritage, and I understand heritage, but this is a perfect example of what you talked about, Sam, where you can sort of make things unacceptable. I mean, I'm a freedom guy. If you want to fly and I'm sorry, Southerners, but if you want to fly a swastika flag or a hammer and sickle flag or a North Vietnamese flag when we're in the Vietnam War, I'm okay with that too. But maybe you could make it, and I'm shocked to find out that it's considered acceptable. I mean, when I see it, I do a double take and I turn my head and I always wonder about the person who's flying it. At the same time, there's people who are very passionate about that. I mean, if I'm a black person in the United States, if I'm a person of color of any kind, it's a offensive at the base level. We live in a free society, though, and I'm one of those people that believes in freedom. Now, here's the difference. You don't fly it over some state capital. I mean, I think I don't even see a gray area there. I don't know why those states have been flying it like that or getting away with flying it like that up till now. Some guy wants to fly it on the back of his truck. That's freedom. You want to fly a swastika? I'm okay with that, too. But the state house? I mean, I don't get that and never have.
Yeah, that's what I'm searching for here because it's totally clear cut from my point of view, but I'm just wondering if there's something I'm missing here because the analogy to the Nazi flag or swastika is is there some point of view that I have not heard well expressed which makes that a false analogy? I mean, if you're going to fly the Nazi flag or you're going to have a swastika tattooed on your forehead, you are expressing really in the clearest possible way an ideological commitment, and that ideology is genocidal, is anti-Semitic. It's and it suggests a view of history where you think you would rather live under the Thousand-Year Reich than under the current order. It, to my eye, the Confederate flag entails the same kind of ideological declaration. That it is a statement that the cause of the South during the Civil War was not only a cause worth fighting for, it was the right one, and it is some kind of sacrilege or moral problem that the South lost. And I'm wondering if all the people who think the flag is, quote, their tradition and morally blameless are actually never being forced to unpack what they mean by that. And what they mean is, yeah, we really wish the South had won the Civil War. And this is something I just simply don't know. I'm wondering if you have any understanding of what the psychology is around, or the culture is around venerating that flag.
Here's what I don't understand. I would love to interview these folks because whenever someone writes me a letter about this, they always say it's not about the slaves and it's not about the racial situation. It's about the right to secede. It's a right to protect your life. It's a right to do all. In other words, take every reason for the Civil War besides the slavery aspect, and they will say it's about that.
Right.
It's not about because nobody or very few people I've ever spoken to, say, yeah, I fly the flag because black people are inferior and blah, blah, blah. I would love to see a notation then to the flag. There's a lot of flags from other countries where something will happen and a new regime will take over or something will change and they'll alter the flag slightly, right? They'll put we always put another star on our flag when a new state came in. It seems to me you could put something like a chain being snapped or something in the center of the flag, or something that indicated, that this flag isn't in favor of slavery, or this is the post-slavery Confederacy, or welcome back black people to the new South, whatever. Something that just sort of said, oh, the little chain on the flag being freed. Yeah, that shows that this flag does not represent something that said that the slavery was the part we would like to see returned. I'm not sure that makes anybody happy, but I got to tell you, whole different thing for me to see one of these things on a car than it is to see it on some state capitol somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, why would you celebrate that? I mean, again, if you're this, why would you do? This whole Southern heritage thing, it's hard for me to handle.
Yeah, and for many reasons that are related to what we've been talking about, that they have been an honor culture in a way that the North and the coasts really have never been, and you still show, even psychological experiments show the difference between North and South in that respect. It's interesting. I think it does seem pretty clear cut, and again, it seems like one of those moments where there's a tipping point where you think this is going to change very quickly. We've seen a tipping point on our national view of gay rights, and in a way that I don't think anyone expected 20 years ago. And one has to hope and has to try to engineer similar moments of change in the rest of the world. The question is, what tools do we have to do that? And one always hopes that they're conversational first, economics second, and more coercive beyond that. And I think I actually don't think you and I disagree about. I think it's a matter of degree how we disagree. I don't think we have a categorical disagreement about wanting to have all the tools available. I just think we may have a sense of just how circumspect, a different sense of how circumspect you have to be when it comes time to use force. But we may not, in fact, even disagree there if we were talking about any individual case.
I would be interested to see polls, if the questions were asked correctly, amongst Southerners, how they feel about it. And, as I said, in the emails that I'll get about this, people will talk about it's just a pride in your heritage sort of thing. I think the pity then is that there isn't an alternative symbol that if you wanted to say, I'm a Southerner and I'm proud of it, that you could show that didn't have the same overtones, that didn't appear to some people that you're not just saying, yes, I'm proud of the South, but I'm proud of things the South did before the Civil War. I mean, the United States, for example, has a whole bunch of other flags that we've flown at one time or another, the Gadsden flag, all those kinds of things, which different people can appropriate to show, different aspects or ideas. Seems to me if you're into Southern pride, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having pride in your heritage or your grandfathers or anything like that, it's a pity that the symbol that you could use to show that has all sorts of other overtones that are not just deeply offensive, but that make people who are valued members of your community feel not just like second-class citizens, but maybe even a little afraid. I mean, who would want to? Who would want to show that in a way that took other Southerners and instead of making them feel proud, made them feel the opposite of proud?
Yeah. And I don't know why one would want to really celebrate the right to secede at this point either. So
I'm okay with that. I mean, I think that if this is a free society, and if Texas wants to leave, I want them to go. I'm fine with that. And I think that you might even make a case that when we talk about solving some of our national ills, the problems are so giant, so huge, and so complex that you might argue if this were not a country with, national things that held us together, it might make perfect sense if this was some giant corporation to break off pieces of it and make it more manageable. It obviously becomes a whole different question when you're talking about a nation. But in a theoretical concept, to me, I mean, if you don't want to be in the United States, I'm not sure I want you here.
Right. Well, that's an interesting topic.